Hey everybody, Keller here for Penzwald Jaeger Club, and welcome to the first edition of Cooking Wild Game in the third part of our dove hunting series. The final part, the tasty part, but it helps a lot if you can have an even more successful hunt than the one that John and I had. If you might remember, it was kind of mildly successful, so I've actually had to cut my recipe in half. Which is not what you want, but I think it'll be doable and I think it'll work out just fine. So let's try to imagine what's the best way to pair Pennsylvania hunting traditions with some Pennsylvania cooking traditions. Well, as anyone who's lived in the Keystone State for long enough probably already knows, we have a unique style of cooking here in Pennsylvania, and that would be Pennsylvania Dutch cooking. So I looked online, and I'm sure there's plenty of different cookbooks out there, but the one that I found is called Pennsylvania Dutch Cooking, a Mennonite Community Cookbook. And this one is by Mary Emma Showalter. I was just kind of scanning through the recipe book and was looking for something that was specific to wild game, and there's some, but what I found that is kind of a catch-all is something that's labeled Meat Tarts or Piroshki, which is a Russian, Ukrainian kind of a meat dumpling. Anyhow, we are going to get that prepared and we'll walk through each step and see how it turns out.
So you want to start by slicing up the dove breast and cut it into small enough pieces that they'll cook down and fit into these dumplings well enough. Then you want to slice off your 2 tablespoons of butter, which I had to learn that you can just cut right along the packaging. It measures out how much you actually need. Dice your onion. Again, like the meat, you want to slice it into pretty small pieces so it all fits nicely packaged into the dumpling. Then sift your flour, 2 cups. I had to watch a YouTube video to figure out how to sift flour. I had no clue what that meant before making this. Use a colander if you don't have a sifter. You shake it out a little bit. Make sure it's nice and sifted. Then you're going to add the butter. Melt it in the microwave or wherever. Pour it in, mix it into the flour. Make sure that's well mixed in. Then you're going to add the sour cream, 1/2 cup. Just shake it around a little bit, scrape it off. Sure, like most baking, it's not an exact science, but it helps to be somewhere in the ballpark. Sure you get all that in there. Then you're going to knead the dough. This is what you're going to use for the dumpling material, so just make sure it's all mixed in there well and kneaded well. Put a little muscle into it if you have muscles. Next, you're going to fry up the onions and throw a little butter right on top of there. Let that melt down and mix in and get those onions fried up. So you want to get the dough rolled out, and if you have a rolling mat like my wife does, that can come in handy for getting the size relatively accurate. The big idea here is you need to roll the flour out to 1/4 inch thickness, and beyond that, the instructions called for using a round biscuit cutter. I didn't have that. I had my toddler's bowl, which was close enough. So you basically just cut it out around just make sure you size up that flat piece of dough to make sure you can get as many dumplings as you need out of that piece of material. And remember, once you get those cut out, that you'll have some material left. They just need to ball back up, flatten out, roll it, and then that'll give you your fourth dumpling, which is all that I had materials for. So the dumpling dough is ready to roll. Back to the frying pan. When in doubt, just add a little more butter. Then we're going to add our Dove meat. Just kind of sprinkle it in there. You add the meat in there. Just know that it's going to cook a little quicker since it's a lean meat. And you're just going to stir it around until it loses its red color. That's going to be your indicator. Don't let it get too fried too fast. And then you add some seasoning, grind out some salt, add some whatever kind of seasoning. You can pretty much add whatever you want. This is some kind of a rub. And it's ready to roll. Now you're going to need to paint it with an egg yolk. So crack an egg. I just used a mug to contain things. And then you're going to add the meat and onions onto the flattened piece of dumpling dough. And just kind of portion it out evenly, mix and match. If you need to pull a little out here and there to make things even, do that. And then just pinch it tight like a little football almost. And pinch the ends. Once they're all pinched tight and sealed, they're ready to be painted with the egg yolk. So just get them in the baking pan that they're going to end up in. And just make sure they're nice and coated with that egg yolk. Then when they're all painted in their egg yolk, you're going to have the oven set to 400 degrees and you're going to pop them in there. And basically there's not a designated time, you just need to watch and wait till the crust gets brown. Once it's browned, pull them out, give them a try.
Alright, so here it is. Give it the first bite here. I've already cut it to kind of air it out a little bit. We'll see how it tastes. It's not bad. The dough may have gotten a little harder than it maybe should have. It's not unlike a Hot Pocket, which really isn't flattering to say about a home-cooked meal, but it's good. It's not the worst thing I've ever eaten. Certainly not the best either, but the big idea is it's a fairly simple meal that you can make, and you can probably chop up any game, no matter how much or how little, and still fit it into a bunch of little pouches and make as many as you can make. So anyhow, hope this was informative or entertaining or whatever, but it was just a way to try to highlight some of the Pennsylvania history of cooking and pairing it with the hunting. And I would love to hear some of your comments about maybe some of your dove recipes, how you and your family have traditionally cooked dove that you've harvested, and just see what kind of ideas are out there. The recipe will be posted on the website, and yeah, feel free to leave any comments in the section below. And thanks for tuning in.